Hey everyone, I am Byung-Yoon Kim, chairman of the new Consilience group NCG. Today we will fundamentally re-examine the concept of the afterlife, which humans have believed in for thousands of years. Major religions such as Christianity, Buddhism, Islam, Hinduism have all imagined a world after death. But at the core of these beliefs lies the shared idea of a next world beyond this life. But does this afterlife really exist? Who does the belief serve? And what purpose does it fulfill? As explored in episodes 7 and 8, Nosum and Transmigration. Transmigration is not just an event that happens solely after death. It happens with every breath of a living being in every moment of each life. As we grow, all our cells are replaced, our thoughts and emotions change, and even our physical makeup changes. Yet, we still recognize ourselves as the same person. This is a phenomenon that should be understood as a continuous change, not discontinuity, a flow of essence. Transmigration is the structural flow of each being as it changes form, and it can be explained scientifically in terms of energy conservation and transmigration. The afterlife portrayed by religious institutions varies not only between religions but also between sects within the same religion. Concepts such as heaven, hell, purgatory, and limbo differ, as do the ways to get there, such as ascension, rapture, resurrection, reincarnation, and so on. This diversity is not a diversity of truth, but of human imagination. For example, Paul spoke of a three-layered heaven borrowed from Hinduism, while Islam claims a seven-layered heaven. Medieval Catholicism also borrowed from Dante's La Divina Commedia to describe heaven and hell in more detail. Even the concepts of purgatory and limbo were created to justify the rule of the privileged classes. Judaism, for example, did not originally believe in an afterlife, but came to accept the idea of at least two heavens and a purgatory under the Christian influence. Jesus said, "The kingdom of God is within you," and Buddha emphasized enlightenment as the liberation from suffering in this life. Neither of them spoke specifically of the afterlife. Ultimately, the afterlife is not a transcendent truth, but is a myth that was later created by religious communities to facilitate their rule and exploitation of their followers. Reincarnation presupposes that the self or soul travels as a fixed entity. This was a prevalent way of thinking in ancient Egypt, India, and Greece, and even in early Christianity. However, from the perspective of Nosum, the soul is not a fixed entity, but rather a vibrating entity. Transmigration is a natural phenomenon whereby this vibration resonates with a new mirror image, causing the entity to transmigrate into a new form. A vibrating particle transmigrates into a new energy field that resonates with the field itself. This is the structural transformation of a true transmigration. Plato, Socrates, and Paul also spoke of concepts similar to transmigration, but framed them in terms of the continuation of the individual soul. Transmigration is not the movement of an individual soul, but rather the structural transformation of an entity according to its vibrational resonance. The reincarnation of souls into animals or plants, as mentioned by Greek philosophers, or Paul's reference to the resurrection, including fish, makes more sense when interpreted in terms of transmigration. Transmigration is true, but since the Middle Ages, religion has perverted it and sacrificed countless innocent lives. When a being dies, its body decomposes and its components are reused to form other lives. For example, a decomposed body may nourish plants or become parts of an animal's drinking water. Those plants or animals may then be consumed by other animals or humans, thus recycling old components into different forms. So, how can the original form of any being be returned to it when it is resurrected? When each being passes away, the mind must perish along with the body. If the soul exists separately, the disembodied soul cannot retain the entity's identity. Therefore, the hypothesis of metempsychosis or reincarnation of the soul with the entity's karma is absurd. However, metamorphosis or transmigration is a good alternative for the recycling of the entity, as the immortal subatomic particles must leave the body and find their place after leaving the body in order to retain their immortality. This cycle applies not only to humans and animals, but to all beings, including organic and inorganic matter, as well as subatomic particles. If God exists, he would be subject to this cycle. This is not annihilation, but the beginning of decomposition and recycling. Transmigration is not arbitrary. It is a structured and orderly process. We can divide the process into six stages, known as the transmigration fields. First, the spiritual field is a state of heaven on earth, where enlightened beings are numerous. Second, the free will field is composed of beings that have free will, including humans. Third, the moving life field is composed of beings that can move, including animals. Fourth, the immobile life field is composed of beings that settle down and exist in one place, such as plants. The inanimate energy field is made up of beings that have energy, such as the components of the universe, like the planets, sun, and moon, or earthquake and volcanoes. The sixth, the quantum field, is made of beings that vibrate with subatomic particles. The spiritual field is not a place you go to after death, but rather a communal heaven or utopia that can be formed here on earth. This will be realized when science develops and humans live in coexistence with all beings. Such transmigration follows quantum mechanical laws, similar to how electrons shift between orbits. Transmigration only occurs when the vibration, which is the energy difference, and resonance match. According to the hydrogen emission spectrum theory, an electron can exist only at specific energy levels within an atom, and transitions between these levels require precise changes in energy. This means that every transition emits or observes light of a specific frequency, that is vibration. This figure visualizes the discontinuity of transmigration and resonance with mirrored images. The quantized energy theory provides vital insight into the transmigration of entities. This revolutionary idea can put an end to unnecessary debates about the afterlife. Transmigration is a discontinuous change in energetic resonance, which is the key to dispelling the mysticism surrounding the afterlife and providing a clear understanding of the flow of entities. While religions describe the spiritual world as a place for the dead, but from the perspective of Nosum and transmigration, it has a completely different meaning. The true spiritual field is not a world after death. It is realized in the way we live now. It is not a place for the souls of the dead, but a community formed by the enlightened. Therefore, the true afterlife is shaped by our thoughts, language, and actions in this life, and the result of our coexistence. This life is not a myth. It is a reality that we are already partially experiencing. Our thoughts, language, and actions at this very moment are the starting point of transmigration and the afterlife. The afterlife does not exist. It is a world created by religion and the ruling elite. However, transmigration is real and happens every moment. Life does not disappear. It simply continues in different forms. Death is not the end, but a new beginning. The next life is not an illusion, but a transmigration to lesser-known beings. Therefore, we must no longer be deceived by the idea of fictional heavens and hells. Instead, we should strive to create heaven on earth, here and now, in our daily lives and communities. The enlightened sages said so from the beginning. They did not promise an afterlife. They taught love and compassion in this life, and that anyone can be enlightened and become a children of God or heaven. It is now time to restore the meaning of these profound teachings. Please join us in boldly dispelling the myths of the imagination, remembering the meaning of the Northern and Transmigration, and establishing a Buddha land, a heaven on earth, and nirvana. May your days be filled with enlightenment and purpose. Thank you very much.